Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me today in this webinar on understanding and treating causes of depression. We're going to talk today about 3 types of depression. So it'll be helpful for you if you or somebody you know is having depression to first classify their type of depression. And that's what we have to do in practice. There's no one cure, one herb, or one diet that will help everyone. And in fact, even there's more than 3 classifications, but we're going to talk about 3 in this video, and that will help you see the distinction between these 3 types. And then we'll talk about different treatments and herbs that can be taken to balance these 3 types. But first, I want to talk about common causes of being depressed, unmotivated, lethargic, fatigue. They often go together. And we'll start with the most common, and that is just poor digestion. As per Ayurveda, all health conditions are resulting from the accumulation of toxins or ama due to low agni or weak or poor digestion. So when the digestion's poor, and we'll explain what that means here in a minute, then you're not able to absorb the nutrients from your own food that you're eating. Doesn't matter if it's healthy food. If your digestion is poor, then you're not absorbing these nutrients. If you're not absorbing these nutrients, you become, it's called malabsorption, or you can start to have nutritional deficiencies. That's why a lot of us are having to take vitamins all the time to sustain ourselves. Actually, just taking vitamins isn't fixing the digestive problem. Some people take vitamins because they're not eating well and are trying to make up for it. But other people are taking vitamins, even they're eating well, because they don't have good digestion and absorption of the nutrients. So over time, this becomes depressing, and you become fatigued. And often this person will start to look for stimulants, coffee, sugar, chocolate, and other stimulants to kind of keep the body going, and because this malnourished, weak, fatigued state. And if this progresses long enough, it can lead to a type of melancholy, lethargic, fatigue, and depression, particularly once the coffee effect wears off. Or the person can be very outgoing on the outside when they're having their stimulant, but when they're alone, they have more of a crashing effect and feel more sadness. So it's always good to focus on improving your digestion for almost all health conditions, since we as a human need to survive off the air, the water, and the food. And if we're not digesting the food, then our system won't be able to have the energy it needs to go about its daily tasks. Second, a common cause of this type of depression, fatigue, unmotivated state is blockages in the body. The body is very common. I mean, probably over half the patients that I see have congestion or blockages in different systems in the body. Your body's made up of many different systems, and in Ayurveda, there's more systems than just our respiratory, circulatory system, but many systems. And when we have our lymphatic system and even our mental mind system. We have a system supporting the nerves, a system supporting the muscles, and a system supporting the fat tissue and the use of the fat tissue, the breaking down of the fat and the utilizing of its energy. So when these systems are congested, then just like with a car, if you say you have a nice car, but the oil filter's clogged, the fuel filter's clogged, and there's the air filter is clogged. It hasn't been changed for a long time, so you don't know what's going to happen when you go drive the car. It may start, and it's going to be slow to start, slow to get going, and once it gets going, it's never going to have a drive and a pickup, and it could just putter out and turn off. So same with the person. If you're not having good, if your respiratory system is clogged and you're having a lot of nasal blockage, nasal congestion, mucus, phlegm, difficulty breathing, snoring, breathing with the mouth open, or you need a CPAP machine, then you know you have a respiratory problem. You have the system is clogged, so you're not going to be getting sufficient oxygen into your body, and this is going to lead to lightheadedness, dizziness, and ultimately fatigue. So that's just one system. If the lymphatic system is blocked, then again you start to have toxins accumulated, swelling in the lymphatic gland, and also can lead to lethargy. Even just constipation, not having 2 or 3 bowel movements a day and going a couple days without a bowel movement. What do they say when you haven't had a bowel movement for a few days? What does a person feel when they haven't had a bowel movement for 2 days? What they say, I feel terrible, or I feel full of shit. So that's the feeling that you have when you don't have these bowel movements, because you're hanging on to toxins, and this is accumulating and creating a type of autotoxicity back into the system and burdening the liver and burdening the eliminating channels to get rid of these toxins that should be eliminating in a timely manner from your colon. So again, that can lead to sadness, lethargy, fatigue, and ultimately depression. So any type of blockages in the body, it should be resolved, whether it's respiratory, circulatory. If the circulatory system's not working well, you'll have cold hands and feet. And if your feet are all cold and, they're not getting sufficient blood, and you have varicose veins or spider veins, then your circulation is very poor. So, how well do you think that the body's pumping the blood up to the head uphill if it can't even pump the blood to your hands and feet? Then it's going to have even more difficulty pumping up to the brain. So, your brain could not be getting sufficient oxygen and minerals to support proper thinking. So you can become depressed. And in a way, some of these herbs that we talk about, that's exactly what they're doing, is they're opening up the channels in the brain, kind of boop, opening up and getting things moving again, kind of we could, lack of a better word, like a stimulating your thinking, just opening up. And this makes you feel more awake, more alive, more motivated. And same when you have, the bowels start moving, you feel more hungry, then you eat more, then you have more nutrients, and you have more energy. And the lymphatic system's clogged. This is kind of like your drainage system of your body. And when it's congested, then you feel sluggish. And when it's moving again, like a good massage, you get a good massage, and that's breaking up your congestion in your lymphatic system, and then you feel better after the massage. Another cause of it leads to depression is just poor sleep. If you're waking up at night, urinating at night, not sleeping deeply, then you can find that you won't feel to your best. You won't feel enthusiastic and full of energy the next day when you didn't sleep well. And then again, you resort to stimulants, coffee, sugar, chocolate, recreational drugs to give you that energy you need. So you're kind of like fake energy when you're having sugar or stimulants to get you going, when in fact you needed sleep. So, and often people are there's compounded causes, poor digestion, poor elimination, poor sleep. You have all three of these going, then you're not going to be, you're going to progressively feel more lethargic, more fatigued. And then you can kind of buy some time with the coffee and the stimulants for a few years, maybe 10 years. And eventually that wears off, and you kind of have this burnout, crashing effect. And there you have the depression. These conditions, just like all health conditions, don't show up overnight. I mean, there's all pathologies that are progressing. And we're going to talk about 3 types of pathologies, 3 paths that can lead to depression and fatigue, lack of motivation. So now I like to speak about, a cause is basically our environment. And how does our environment affect our state of mind and our emotional state? Well, our mind is supported by the nervous system. So if our nerves are agitated, stimulated, our mind is going to be agitated and stimulated. if our nerves are depressed, maybe through antidepressants or any, even, you know, our environment, through our senses, then our mind is going to feel depressed. So our nerves are receiving its input, are affecting its nerves, not just through the digestive system and the nutrients in our bloodstream, but also our senses, by a sense of sound, taste, touch, sight, and smell. So one cause of depression is our nerves, and our nerves are being affected by our senses. So what we can do is we can change our environment. We can change what our senses are sensing to make them more, let's just use the word positive, healthy. For example, sound. If you're listening to, you know, depressive music or depressive songs, you know, some country music, you know, oh, my wife left me, you know, or some rap music that's, you know, depressive or negative, and you're hearing this over and over and over, this is going to impact your nervous system and eventually affect your mind, because you're affected through the sound. So what we can do, and we're talking a little bit about cure, because you can change your environment. You can change this, what you hear, what you taste, what you touch, and what you smell. And so we should always have, if we're feel depressed, we should always have uplifting and positive sounds around us. I have a waterfall in my property, and I like it very much. It's very soothing, very calming. And if I do feel a little down or something, I try to play some happy, uplifting music. I personally like Bob Marley. You know, be happy. He's got many uplifting and happy sounds. So, you know, removing any type of negative sounds, negative music will help you. And also taste. If you're eating food every day that you don't like, then you can become depressed from this, according to Ayurveda. The old saying is that if you give the king a meal he doesn't like, he feels sad and upset, not happy. But a poor man, if you give him his favorite dish, he feels happy. So there's a big connection with taste and our mood, which we know. We like a good meal, we feel happy. Now, I find a lot of people are doing diets that are restrictive, starving themselves, no grains, no fat, you know, no wheat, no dairy, no butter, even though their body's craving these things and may even love them. And they may not even have any digestive problems as a result of them, but they're restricting them for some reason, confusion, poor information, mostly. And then they become depressed because every day they're eating foods they don't like, and they're leaving themselves with cravings. So you should always have foods and eat foods that you enjoy. It doesn't mean you get to have donuts and cookies and candy. You know, it means you'll get to eat your favorite fruit. It means that you get to eat, you know, your favorite healthy dishes. But it should be tasty. I never give a diet to a person unless they have very serious health issues like chronic kidney failure. We have to be quite restrictive with the diet. Chronic kidney failure diet is not tasty. But most cases, for people who have digestive problems and health issues, you can give them foods they generally like and they're generally tasty. Because most people's eating habits are poor, and it usually has to do more with the eating habits, snacking too much, eating at night, grazing, not having full meals, you know, having fruit with the meals, a lot of poor eating habits. And if they get rid of those poor eating habits, they often can still have the foods they like, just maybe not in the same large amounts, and be more balanced, and they can enjoy their food. So it's very important that you're eating food that you enjoy. And also sight. Sight is very important. If you surround yourself with, you know, demonic things and other negative sights, like skulls and bones, and, you know, I see kids having lunch pails with skulls and bones on them, and you're wearing dark shirts with demonic pictures on them. I think this is not healthy for the mind. You know, the mind is very impressionable. Even adults, we think, oh, we're so strong, we're not, you know, affected by such simple things like this. But if you were in a room with demonic pictures and ghosts and monsters and Draculas, and then there was demonic music going on, I mean, you were not going to feel very happy. So even an adult will feel negatively affected by the sights and sounds that are negative. And this, of course, could be another person. It could be a person in your life who's negative, who's repeating negative things to you all the time. You're no good. You're not strong. You're not, you know. So this can be negative talk you could be receiving. So we want to definitely have positive sounds around us and beautiful sights like flowers and beautiful pictures and uplifting pictures. And often smell. We want nice smells. If you have a bad smell, like you go outside and there's some dog poop, you're like, oh, you know, you don't feel, doesn't make you feel happy to be smelling a terrible, you know, sewer smell. But if you go into a room and it's got nice flowers and there's a nice scent and you like roses and you smell roses, or you like lavender or sandalwood, and you put on this sandalwood perfume or rose perfume, it's uplifting. You like it. So you should always think of changing your environment, even what you touch. If you're sleeping on a hard surface, this can be, you know, more irritating than a soft surface. You should wear soft clothes, cotton clothes, not polyester and other irritants. So this is very important to think of your environment and change the sounds, change the taste of your food. Change the smells that you have and the sights that you see. It's easy to change your environment, unless it's a person, then it can be more difficult. So improve your diet. And of course, I didn't mention there when I was talking about diet, heavy foods are also leading to depression. Often meat, too much meat consumption. When people are angry, irritable, or depressed, we generally remove the meat and give them lighter foods. They feel heavy, slow, sluggish, and they're having like T-bone steaks and hamburgers every day. Well, if they had lighter meals like salads and beans, they would feel lighter and they'd have more energy. Remember, there's no disconnect between the physical and the mental. You know, if you're physically heavy, your mind is going to be lethargic. If you're physically clogged and congested, your mind's going to be clogged and slow. So, you know, they go hand in hand. And in fact, many of my patients, you know, they have congestion, constipation, poor sleep, and maybe depression, but we don't give them necessarily something for the depression in the first appointment. But, you know, when the bowels get going, the digestion gets going, the energy gets going, and they're sleeping better, guess what? They're not talking about depression anymore. So just thinking, what do I take for my depression, whether it's an herb or a medicine, is not the right thinking. We need to look deeper and look at the causes, what's affecting us. And that's what we wanted to cover first in this webinar. So you try to always eliminate the cause. In Ayurveda, the first treatment for any condition is remove the causes. So now we're going to talk about three kind of common types of depression according to Ayurveda. It's a doshic system talking about the three energies or physical mental constitutions of Vata, which means air and light, Pitta, which means a fire, and then Kapha, which is represented by earth and water. So we're going to talk about these three types. There could be other types of depression related to past trauma, even hormonal imbalances, but these would be outside of the scope of what we're talking about today. We're talking about just these three types: Vata type, Pitta type, and Kapha type. So Vata type of depression accompanies more fear, anxiety, restlessness, insomnia, and often loss of weight. And there's a malnutrition aspect here, because as we know, as any nutritional scientist or nutritionist says, you know, lack of certain nutrients, particularly B vitamins, can lead to depression. So we can, you know, load ourselves up with B vitamins, but in fact, we're probably going back to having poor digestion or maybe poor food or poor eating habits is really the cause behind these nutritional deficiencies. So nutritional deficiency, we could say, is another cause of depression. And definitely in this case, there's a kind of a depletion. You're thin, you're losing weight, you're depleted, you're anxious, you're nervous, you're not enjoying life, you're not enjoying pleasures of life, your sexual libido is low, and there's a certain fear. And Vata is represented by air and, of course, ether. So it's also moving. So this type of person with this type of Vata type of depression is going to have mood swings, easily move from happy to sad. You know, we would call it like a type of bipolar, where the situation's changing, the mood is changing. And so, you know, we can't just say, oh, take this herb for this condition. It means we have to go back to the digestion, back to the nervous system, to help support the nerves, help to improve the digestion, improve the elimination, improve the nutrition of the person. And we will talk about some herbs that can be taken for this type of condition. But the second category, the Pitta type of depression, this often accompanies more anger, irritability, bitterness, jealousy, and often we can associate it with like the midlife crises, you know, where you have the very ambitious person, they're achieving a lot, and then they lose their job, or they don't have the enthusiasm to work themselves so much all the time like they did in their prime. And then there's a certain depression that can happen from this driven, ambitious Pitta type of personality who's motivated and a great achiever, particularly if they've achieved a lot and then they lose it all. Then they can have this type of Pitta depression, which is kind of a very intense depression, because this type of person is very intense when they're happy, partying, and then intense when they're sad. And this type of Pitta depression is actually the most dangerous. It can lead more to violence or even suicide. And we often see this person has acidity, heartburn, warm body temperature, rosacea, you know, red face, and there's a little anger element or resentment, bitterness. Maybe they felt they should have achieved more in life, or they were fired, or their business crashed. So there's a kind of bitterness and resentment to this depression. And this depression, like I said, is a very dangerous type of depression, because a person can just feel like ending their own life. So the third type is a Kapha type of depression, and this is the most common, and it's what I focused on in the previous webinar when I talked on this subject of depression. And the Kapha type of depression is the more lethargic, slow, unmotivated, sleeping in, not getting up in the morning, just sleeping late, no motivation to do anything. There's often weight gain, and there's kind of an emotional, you know, sadness here, where there's crying and sadness and a lack of motivation to do anything. And emotional eating often goes in this category. So that's the Kapha type Prakriti Vikriti condition, where there's often weight gain and sluggishness. So it's good to know which of the three you're in, and you could have a combination of all two of them, and in fact you can have all three of these together at the same time. That's a little outside of the scope for us to talk about addressing all three, but we're going to talk in simple terms and talk about how we would address each of these individually. So first, the Vata type, where we have the nervousness, anxious. This is the type of person who maybe just like, you know, run to the closet and cry by themselves, and then get it all together, and then come out and nobody quite knows that they're depressed, but they're not eating much. So this type of person, we really want to focus on the nerves. We want to focus on relaxing teas, passion flower, lemon balm, chamomile. And we want to focus on helping them get to sleep better and support their nervous system. Hops, barley, catnip, chamomile, you know, poppy seeds, you know, these type of nervines to help the nervous system. One of the premier herbs, of course, for this is just passion flower. Passion flower, very relaxing, very calming, very soothing, and lavender. We don't have the lavender here. Let's see what our lavender. Just smelling the lavender is very pleasant, you know. It's a little uplifting and calming at the same time. And this person usually have some constipation, so we need to get their bowels moving, get their digestion going, get them eating more, and ultimately put some more weight on the person. And probably a formula. We have many different formulas, but even maybe a calming formula like this to help with the nerves, reducing nervousness, anxiety. Here we got ashwagandha, jyotismati, shankpushpi, brahmi, and tagar. So, and then if they're tired in the day and fatigued, then we would focus more on adrenals. Maybe they've been living off of coffee for a while, so then we can have some adrenal tea in the morning, ashwagandha, a little elethro, licorice, cinnamon, and cardamom. And that will help to give them energy, stamina, ashwagandha and licorice being like adaptogens, giving them some energy and without stimulating their nerves. We also have it in a powder form, ashwagandha formula here, ashwagandha, vidarikan, bala, which means strong, to be strong, Brahmi, which we're going to talk about next, one of the premier herbs for the mind, and tulsi, cinnamon, licorice, cumin, and ginger. And ginger and cumin just to help you kind of digest it because it's kind of a heavy substance. So when it comes to that Vata type, nervous, anxious, depleted person who then, you know, becomes emotionally unstable and moods are changing radically, we have to, the key word is stabilize. And to stabilize this person, we have to put weight on this person. Once the weight comes up 5 or 10 pounds, their appetite's coming back, their eating's getting better, then we will see improvement. And when the weight comes up, then it will also help the sleep. And when this type of person, we have to remove all stimulants, coffee, sugar, chocolate. Okay? And also oil massage, any type of massage can be beneficial as well to this person to help them relax. And changing the environment, like I said, can be very helpful because this type of person, Vata type, is very sensitive. So they're sensitive to what other people say. They're sensitive to their environment. So this can be used to your advantage as a practitioner when you have a very sensitive person, because then little things will make a big difference. Flowers, essential oils, nice pictures, pleasant music, and then they're very sensitive. Then they feel better from this change in environment. In fact, we do that here in the clinic. If someone comes and I know they're very sensitive and then we put on very pleasant music. We have flowers in the clinic. We put little, you know, a little scent in the room, and then it makes it, you know, enjoyable for the person. So the next type is Pitta type of depression, which, like I mentioned, is quite serious. The best herb for this type of person is Brahmi. And so we have Brahmi tea, which we just call brain tea here. And it's also got ginkgo, which is an ancient tree that helps with memory and circulation. Gota cola, sage, lemon balm, rosemary, and ginger. Rosemary and ginger being there just as a catalyst to help the formula work. But the main herb is Brahmi. And Brahmi is calming to the mind. It's the premier herb to help manage the state of the mind. And it's lowering Pitta. And Pitta means fire. So this type of person has a lot of heat, a lot of anger, hot-blooded type of person. And then they can get aggressive and then depressed, you know, when they're on their own. When around other people, they could be very aggressive. But when they're by themselves, then they feel the depression. So we have to balance the heat with that type of person. Just like with the Vata person, we have to support the nerves. With this Pitta type of person, we have to take away red meat. This makes you more aggressive, more irritable. And we also have to take away hot foods, spicy foods, chili peppers, cayenne pepper. And you can find sometimes these people are addicted to cayenne pepper and chili pepper, even though they're getting acidity, heartburn, loose stools, diarrhea. You know, they're still eating these hot, spicy foods because they're in this kind of addictive cycle where, you know, they're getting the rush, so to speak, of fire, and and energy and aggression from the hot, spicy food. And alcohol is a very harmful for this type of person. So you can imagine this person's already got this tendency for anger and irritability, and then they're drinking alcohol, they're becoming aggressive, rowdy, and then they're becoming depressive later. And this is a type of person where they're out partying and having a lot of alcohol and drugs, and then next thing you know, we hear they took their own lives. So that's a very serious type of depression. We need to get off of spicy foods, sour foods, alcohol, and have more cooling foods like salads, cucumbers, leafy greens, you know, and sweet foods, sweet fruits, melons, papaya, to cool them down, like be cool as a cucumber, sweet as a melon. You know, this will help them very much. This type of person, when they're irritable and angry and they're not feeling good, if they eat sweet fruits like melons, they feel much better. And this Brahmi works very well. And we would give them this Brahmi tea to drink all day. And also Brahmi ghee. See, this is even better. Brahmi ghee. It's you know, it says it's for memory. We call it memory ghee, but we know very well that this works very good for mental imbalances, even ADHD where the mind's all scattered. In ghee form, it makes it more stable. And we have special herbs just for this type of person. Do we got cool head over there?
Yes.
And we have one here called Common Cool, and this is calming, and it's for the person who has some anxiety. We call it anxious frustration and irritability. And this is very nice. The Brahmi is still the first ingredients. Shang Pushmi, Jyotismati, which is calming, Guduchi, which is antipyretic, cooling, sandalwood, also cooling, licorice, also cooling. So it's like a calming, cooling formula. So we call it Common Cool. Works very nice. People reorder it. And if you're really hot-tempered and having anger issues, you know, and depression at the same time, then we'd give you this one, Cool Head. Cool Head is a very cooling formula. Let's see if we can get it to focus there. There we go. There we go. See, frustration, anger, rage, hypercriticism. Can solve all that in a little jar. Isn't that amazing? And there's that Brahmi again, one of the best herbs. And Taruni, that means roses, rose powder. Jyotismati is calming, and Guduchi Sattva is very cooling. And Mukti Pishti, that is the powder of pearls. So it even smells nice and smells, you know, chill. That's the word. It's chilling. It's just amazing formula. And we call it Cool Head, and people reorder it, and they say that it's, you know, really helped them a lot. So we know that these things work. And this is from Ayurveda. These are traditional Ayurvedic formulas. So that type of person, we have to change the diet. We have to get out the red meat, the aggravating things, the alcohol, and less stimulants, and cooling foods. Get rid of the chili peppers. So, you know, it's all connected. There's not like one thing you do to take care of a mental state. You have to fix the physiological. You have to change the environment. And then the herb, in this case, like Cool Head or Common Cool or Calming Formula, becomes a tool to help them over the rough spots, to give them some support. So instead of feeling depressed, they can just take the herb. And then they can get over that. And, you know, after a while, the people don't need the herb anymore because these herbs are just plants. They don't have they don't create a dependence on them like you would with medication. Now, some people will order these herbs for 2, 3, 4 months, even a year, and then they don't need it anymore because they, you know, they sort of get it together. Their body's been accustomed to not being depressed, not being angry, not being anxious, and then they're able to manage it with their life and changing their life and their lifestyle and their diet. And this is the long-term solution. So the third type of depression we call Kapha type, and this person is usually overweight, heavy, sleeping in, not getting up, very unmotivated, sluggish, and got a lot of emotional eating. Now this person actually is a little easier to treat. Well, we only have to stimulate them. That's right. We can give them memory and energy tea. which is, and we can give them caffeine, even caffeine, just like the Vata type, who had the nervousness, we had to take the caffeine out. But when you have this overweight, heavy, sluggish, depressed type of person, Kapha type, we give them the green tea. So here's a formula that has green tea in it. There's that ginkgo again, good for the mind, the circulation, you know, and Denrao green tea, gota cola, a little peppermint, elethro, which is a type of ginseng, and some sage and rosemary and ginger. So this is stimulating tea, gets you going in the morning. And often we even give them this energy formula, strength and energy formula. That gets them moving, you know, helps with fatigue and weakness. There's the ashwagandha, there's elethro, which is a type of ginseng, shilajit, a mineral sap, and there's the main ingredient, white ginseng root, and very stimulating, very uplifting, and, you know, it can really get you going and feel like moving. And that's what that Kapha type of person does. They actually need the stimulants to kind of get their system going. And so they're the easiest of the different cases to treat. And generally they need to eat less, no heavy foods, no wheat, no meat, no beans, no snacking, and they need to start losing weight, because that you know, it's a lot of work carrying around an extra 10, 20, 30 extra pounds. It becomes tiring, draining, depleting. So as they lose the weight, they will get better. And remember, for the Vata type, as they gain the weight, their mood will get better. But this type, as they lose the weight. So we may provide some weight loss herbs, a weight loss diet, you know, maybe only 2 meals a day, no snacking, so no meat, more beans, more, you know, leafy greens, fruit, apples between the meal, to just make the diet light, so they're losing weight and they feel more able to get up and get going in the morning. And in fact, even this type of person who's been depressive is drinking coffee every day, and I say, fine, keep going with the coffee, but instead of having it at 11 o'clock in the morning, start to make your coffee at 8 or 9 in the morning to get yourself going. And so coffee can be medicine for certain people, particularly if you're in this Kapha type of body where you feel lethargic, slow, and congested. And, you know, we still want to get the bowels moving, get the digestion going, help them lose weight, and help them feel lighter. And this ginseng and these, I have another ginseng here. These ginseng, this is royal ginseng here. We get them going here, and this will get you, you know, stimulated. You're basically stimulating the heart, getting it pumping faster, getting the circulation going faster, stimulating the mind, motivating them to get moving and overcome their lethargic state. Now we have a few other products that are can be helpful on top of that, good for all types. And here we have two. We have this happy tea, happy energy tea. So these are helping to improve the mood. They've got the Damiana, which is also an aphrodisiac too. So, you know, you're happy when you're horny. And lavender, spearmint, and ginseng. There's a ginseng again. So it's kind of a stimulating, mood enhancing, even libido enhancing type of formula. And then we have another one which is non-stimulating, we just call happy tea. Improves the mood. There's our St. Johns Wort, which is a little relaxing. There's the Damiana again. Motherwort for circulation, cinnamon, a little black pepper. It's a little mildly circulating, getting the blood flowing to the brain. But the main ingredient is the St. Johns Wort. But this is not suitable for all types. It wouldn't be suitable for that Kapha type who's lethargic. You know, St. Johns Wort wouldn't work. It'd make them more lethargic, more sleepy. That's good for the Vata type. And then we have our main formula here, which we use a lot, and that's called Ayurvedic Mood Balancer. And this one is helpful for almost all 3 types. I use it a lot. There's Brahmi, the main herb, Shankpushpi, which is for irritability, anger, and mild anxiety, and Jyotismati, and not a very common herb, but it's uplifting. It's kind of like an uplifting herb. It improves your mood. So it's not really getting rid of depression. We're just uplifting the mood. And that's made of this formula here. It's got, I mean, another formula that's uplifting and good for Pitta is Saraswati Churna. Saraswati is the name of the god of knowledge in Ayurveda. So if you have a formula named after a god, it's a pretty good formula. We sell it here as brain and memory tonic, but you know, the formula is Saraswati Churna, which is what it says at the bottom. Now this is a wonderful formula. I mean, it's ancient formula, thousands of years old. I'm trying to get the focus here. There we go. See, Saraswati Churna. It's about 50 herbs in there, so we don't make it. And just 1/4 teaspoon between the meals. In fact, I have it here right on my desk, and it's definitely uplifting. This is particularly good for when there's a dull thinking, dull, not sharp. You're not thinking, you're not motivated, particularly the Kapha type. You can just take a pinch of this, rub it into the roof of your mouth, bing, you feel like just your eyes open right up. I mean, even your hearing can get better. So this is, it's got one of these herbs called Vata that opens up the channels. It's a very potent herb, so it's in there in a very small amount, but even a small pinch, you can feel you're woke right up. And if you get it in larger doses, like half teaspoon 3 or 4 times a day, this will help a person recover even from dementia. And this is an ancient formula and works very well. We also have some of these Brahmi oils in an oil form. We call it brain oil, but basically this is Brahmi. See, brain oil, good for cognitive function, but this is very good for the Pitta type. Well, that Saraswati Churna, it's got that little kick to it. That's good for the Kapha. They're feeling memories bad, lethargic, can't remember things, and we give them that one. Somebody's asking about Kava. That would only be good for the Vata type, not the Kapha type. It's too, and it can be. I stopped using Kava years ago. It was making some people having bad dreams. Now this one, you put a little bit in your nostrils. Very good for Pitta, because Brahmi is the best herb to manage Pitta type of depression. Well, that Saraswati Churna, that waking up one, and ginseng, those are the best for the Kapha. And for the Vata, then you have more of the nerve vines, passion flower, lemongrass, chamomile, motherwort, and the flowers. And of course, Brahmi for all 3 types. And in fact, many people, I just customized the formula. Recently, I had somebody who had depression, and instead of making this mood balancer, I changed it a little bit. They just weren't that motivated. I didn't want to stimulate them too much with the ginseng. So what I did was I mixed Brahmi 1/3, Saraswati 1/3, and then what else? Oh, then Jyotismati, that uplifting one that kind of gives you this light feeling. So I combine those 3 together. So that's 2 herbs, Jyotismati, Brahmi, and Saraswati, which is a bunch of herbs. And I mixed them in equal portions, 33. And I made it specifically for that person. And in fact, that's the best. With all these formulas that I have, what did I do? I still made it specifically for that particular client, because nothing that I had was a perfect match. Often I can take something right off the shelf or a formula that I've made. And, you know, many of these formulas are traditional Ayurvedic formulas that have been around for a long time. In fact, I'm getting many of these formulas from Ayurvedic texts, you know, ancient Ayurvedic texts on ancient Ayurvedic formulas. We're not making it up here. We're using existing formulas. So I hope that gave you some hope and inspiration that, you know, your mood can be balanced. Of course, people know nowadays from the legalization of cannabis that there are herbs that change your mood. Now, cannabis can be very stimulating so person with anxiety can make it worse. Person with anger and irritability, it can chill them out. And a person who's, you know, lethargic and heavy, you know, it, depending on the type of cannabis, could make them stimulate them for a little while and then lead to depression. So you have to be very careful using cannabis. It's best for that Pitta type of person than the other 2. But this does show you, for those people who've had it, that just one herb can have an impact on your state of mind. So here we're using, you know, many herbs. We're adjusting the herbs for the individual. We're customizing them for the individual. We're dealing with the person holistically, helping with the digestion, counseling and consulting them for changing their environment, even the clothes that they wear, the music that they listen to. And it's this holistic approach that gives people the ability to overcome this state of their mind that they've become kind of trapped in, and it allows them to get out of this cycle. And once they're out of the cycle, they're out of that state of mind by maybe the herbs were like a tool to help them get through, then they're able to stay out of that state of mind. Nobody's ordering these herbs for 20 years. They may order them for 2 months, 3 months. Many of the clients think they can't live without my mood balancer, my calming formula, or my happy tea for months. They think, oh my God, how am I going to live without it? But 6 months from now, they're fine. They're not ordering it anymore. You know, so it's like sleep. You know, if you're not sleeping every day, then it's hard to get back in the cycle. But if you take the sleeping herbs, then you get yourself asleep, then it gets easier from there, you know, to get back in the sleeping cycle again. And that's what herbs do, like helping you to get through these difficult times. So I hope that helped to give you some hope. And again, I do have another webinar on depression that's been uploaded to YouTube that I welcome you to watch. If you need more help with your health, all your health issues, nobody just has one health issue. Usually people have a nice package of different ones, and their depression or anxiety or irritability is just one of the aspects that they need to work on the health. And like I said, it's better to work on them all together. And so you're making progress, feeling a little bit better, you know, day after day, and the herbs help you out. So, but if you need more help, feel free to contact me and ask questions, or fill out my online form where I have a big section about your state of mind. And then you can schedule an appointment directly online, or you can contact me. And of course, we're all having our lockdown discount now. So during this time, we are giving discounts. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen.